You're listening to the Codependent Millennial Podcast, Episode 6, How to Handle Uncertainty Both In and Out of Quarantine. This episode is part of my series on living your best codependency-free life in quarantine. To sign up to receive this series of video trainings and to receive all of the corresponding worksheets and written guidance, simply visit codependentmillennial.com/codependency-free quarantine. Press the button that says Get the Guide and sign up there. Now let's get started. Hi, I'm Sophie with Codependent Millennial, and I want to welcome you back to How to Live Your Best Codependency-Free Life in Quarantine. Today we're talking all about how to handle uncertainty. Tomorrow, I'm going to dive into how to regain back control over your life, so stay tuned for that lesson coming out tomorrow. So, how do we deal with uncertainty? I would encourage you to come to terms with the fact that any security, any certainty that we thought we had 1 or 2 months ago was simply an illusion. And this concept can be terrifying for most people when you think about it, but I want to show you how it can actually be a much more empowering realization than a terrifying one. My number one recommendation for handling uncertainty is to get crystal clear about what you do have control over versus what you don't. And this is the most empowering thing you can do, because instead of going to a place of hopelessness and helplessness, because there is really so much that is outside of your control, you can actually shift to a place of empowerment, because the most powerful thing that exists on this earth is entirely within your control, your mind. There is nothing on this earth that controls your experience of life more than your own mind. As codependents, we grew up thinking and believing wholeheartedly that our experience of life was determined entirely by people and circumstances outside of ourselves. That is why we were so attached to the idea of controlling people and things, why we're so obsessed with people-pleasing in order to get approval and attention and permission and love. That's why we are terrified of saying no, and so we always say yes even when we want to say no. That's why we are obsessed with being liked and being nice. That's why we're terrified of confrontation. I could just go on and on and on. Codependency is based on the perception, the incorrect perception, that the external circumstances in life affect our reality more than what is internal, more than our minds. So handling uncertainty is really all about resituating your sense of security, certainty, confidence, safety back inside of yourself by taking that power, taking that sense of confidence and sense of security and sense of certainty out from all the different places in which you try to put it and placing it back inside of yourself where it belongs. And this is why I also love to remind my clients who are coming to me with anxieties about the current circumstances that any issues they're dealing with now existed 1 or 2 months ago. They just have been magnified and heightened recently. So anything that's coming up for you now is something you were going to at some point have to contend with and have to deal with. So what a perfect opportunity for you to look at all the ways in which you were still externalizing your sense of security. Maybe you were still externalizing your sense of responsibility, financially or otherwise, financially or emotionally, on someone else. And now that someone else is busy or they're in quarantine by themselves and you can't rely on them in the same way you did at one point, and so you're freaking out. That is a good thing. It is so beautiful that you're not being given those same opportunities to siphon energy off of other people, so that you can learn how to find those things within yourself first. So maybe you're one of the recovering codependents like myself who has difficulty saying no when asked for help or support or a favor. And again, it is a beautiful thing that you are presented with the opportunity now to look at all the sentences in your mind that are telling you that your needs are less important than someone else's. Why is it hard for you to say no? Why is it compelling for you to say yes in order to earn someone's affection more than it is to say no and preserve your relationship with yourself? Why is another person's perception of you more important than your relationship and your integrity with yourself? Really look at that. There is no better time. Maybe you are simply too afraid to admit that you don't have as much control as you would like to have because that concept is just too terrifying. I understand where you're coming from. And I want to remind you again that this is a beautiful opportunity for you to remind yourself of your own power. Remind yourself of the incredible amount of power that exists within your ability to look at a thought, to feel an emotion, and to provide that container for your thoughts and feelings to be heard instead of be resisted and continue to control your life from the subconscious. I promise you, there is no more beneficial thing that you could do for yourself right now than to make the decision to hear all of the sentences in your mind that you are too afraid to listen to. There are secrets in there. They have something to teach you about the way that you see the world and about how that isn't serving you anymore. So take time to look at those sentences that you're too afraid to look at. Understand that they only exist within your mind. They are entirely within your control to feel and to give voice to, and that you don't have to be ruled by any of them. You don't have to believe any of them. You as a sentient human being, you have the capacity to look at a sentence, and even if it scares you, to let it be heard and then to release it if it's not something that you want to keep in your belief system any longer. So I received a few questions on Instagram regarding uncertainty that I wanted to address here in this video. If you'd ever like to submit a question, you can DM me on Instagram at codependentmillennial or email me, sophie@codependentmillennial.com. The first question was, what should I focus on now when I don't know how to get where I want to go? Okay, so the uncertainty of knowing how to do something, or desperately wanting to know how to do something, wanting to know the steps, the guaranteed path. That's something I definitely struggled with for a long time. What is the next right step? Don't tell yourself that you don't know. I know that you really believe really hard that you don't know, but I promise you, you know. Ask yourself, what is the next right step? What is something I can do right now to get me one step closer to just starting? Just start. It's that simple. So you have to answer that question for yourself. What is the next right step? And then you have to go do it. The second question, where does the urge to control come from? How can I heal and change it? Oh, incredible question. Thank you for submitting that. The belief that things can and will go wrong. That's where the desire to control comes from, is the belief that things can and will go wrong, and that you will not be okay when they do. You can heal this need to control, this compulsion to control, by being brave enough to admit what you do and don't have control over. It will be incredibly healing for you to admit that you actually don't have control over anyone or anything outside of your own mind. The sooner you admit this to yourself, the better. I know it's terrifying. It will liberate you, I promise. Really let this sink in. You do not have control over other people or other circumstances outside of your own mind. Once you've sat with this concept, once you've really taken this to heart and admitted it and come to terms with it in your own mind, you can then go about centering your sense of security and confidence inside of yourself, in the one thing you can control, which again is your mind. I want you to feel so perfectly, amazingly secure in your capability as a human to handle anything. Not in your capacity to effectively control outside circumstances so that you can allow yourself to feel safe. That's not it at all. You can situate your sense of security and certainty in the certainty that you can and will handle anything that comes at you. That is where your certainty lies, not in your ability to, control things in a certain way so that you can feel safe because they are a certain way. Again, any sense of control that you have for the outside world is an illusion. Okay? It's an illusion. It's not real. The third question I received was, what do I do if I'm over-preparing and never taking action? Oh, my love. Okay, amazing question, another great one. And I want to ask you, what would it take for you to prioritize your goals and dreams above the comfort of simply not doing them? Sit with that for a minute. What would it take for you to prioritize your own goals and dreams and the accomplishment of them above the simple comfort of just not doing them? The simple answer to this question is you just need to take action. It's that simple. I know you want a long, complicated answer. Your brain desperately wants it to be complicated so that you don't have to go do it. So answer that question for yourself. What is it going to take for me to finally prioritize this goal over the comfort of just ignoring it? What will it take for you to admit to yourself that needing more information, quote unquote, is just an excuse? What is it going to take for you to just start? My recommendation for you is that you start telling yourself that you do know what to do. You do know the right next step. And no, I'm not saying that you should delude yourself into thinking that you know everything, every tiny little thing that will be required for you to reach the final goal, but that's not the point. The point is that you absolutely, right now, have what it takes and have the knowledge of what to do next in order to get started on this journey. That's the most important part. The most important part right now for you in the achievement of this goal is to take the next right step, and you know what that is. So practice telling yourself that you know what that is. Answer that question for yourself, and then go do it. It's that simple. So thank you all so much for tuning in to today's lesson on handling uncertainty during quarantine. Tomorrow's video will be all about regaining control over your life. If you have an area of your life that you feel out of control in, if you are struggling with anxiety around uncertainty, schedule a free session with me. We can talk one-on-one about your specific scenario. We can make a plan for how you can regain control over that area of your life that you feel totally helpless in. And you can move forward today with full control over the one thing in life you have full control over, your mind, your most powerful, inexhaustible resource. Visit codependentmillennial.com/work-with-me to schedule a one-on-one appointment with me today. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have an amazing day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Tomorrow we'll talk all about how to regain control over your life during and after quarantine. If you'd like to talk one-on-one about your struggles with uncertainty, you can grab one of the 3 free sessions that I have available each week by visiting codependentmillennial.com/work-with-me and schedule a free session there. Until then, I hope you have a beautiful, amazing day. If you liked what you heard on this episode, join me over on Instagram at Codependent Millennial for tips on moving beyond codependency and building a life you are obsessed with. See you there.